and thank you for joining us for another episode of Help Nobody Told Me. I am Jasmine Shapiro, and I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. I'm a residential realtor, and I am with Mindy Leonard, one of my team members, and Mindy has a company called SOS, Super Organized Spaces.
Yes, I do. Thank you very much. And our guest today is Arden Edelcup. We all have known each other for quite some time, so this makes today really special. Arden's new title is Business Development Manager. She's with a company called Transworld Business Advisor that's located in Deerfield.
Correct.
And it's a relatively new career path for you, which is part of the reason why we brought you on, because you thought you were going into retirement, and then, lo and behold, everything changed.
So you're too young to retire.
Way too young.
Exactly. In my mind.
And there's so many people that are in their 50s that are kind of ready to close a chapter on what their profession was for all these years, but they're not quite sure, what am I going to do now? I'm not really ready to retire.
Exactly.
And so tell us a little bit about your journey and why you all of a sudden you decided to start something new.
Well, it's a interesting, long journey. I'm actually an attorney by trade, and my father worked very hard to get me through law school and took out a lot of loans. Got married into a family that owned a retail store and beauty business in Highland Park called Ross's. And I had 3 small kids. Our kids are all the same age. And my husband said, sure, you could start your own practice, become an immigration lawyer, do your own thing after the kids are a little bit older. And just when I was about to do it, we needed some help at our stores. So my husband said, could you come help just a little bit? And that was 30 years ago, and I ended up not really pursuing the immigration law. I ended up getting full throttle into the family business, which was actually a perfect fit for my personality. Mm-hmm. So I did that for 30 years. My husband always wanted to retire youngish. So by 60, he wanted to be retired. We sold the store last year to a really nice young couple. He wanted to very much retire, so he's golfing all the time now, and woodworking and living his best life. And I knew immediately that this was not going to be a thing for me. As much as I like, learning pickleball and canasta and all those things, it was not enough to fill my day. Mm-hmm. So the gentleman that sold the business for us, Mark Bailey, happens to be a guy that we know from the area. He was a great business broker, sold our business very fast, and he looked at me and said, oh, come work with me, and the rest is history. Now I've been working with him for over a year. Also a second career for him. He used to be in the trade show industry. So we're all around the same age group in our office, which has been great because it's second careers for everybody, which is sort of that industry.
I was going to ask, is that really typical of the industry?
Yes. I'm finding that people that are in this business brokerage industry, most of them that I have met are either in their 50s or 60s, very few young people, but that's my experience. I don't know. There's 1,000 brokers at Transworld Business Advisors. Not all of them are second careers. But you're playing a long game with this business, so you don't make money on day one. You're spending a long time, like real estate. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not much different as far as you're playing the long game as far as income. So it has to be either people that don't need that immediate paycheck, or people that have some income and already saved, and they're just looking to eventually build, but they don't need money immediately. Because it takes a year to sell a business. So even if you get your first listing, it could be a year till your first payday comes. Unlike real estate, where I think it's much faster cycle than
But not necessarily.
Business.
And I think you can probably agree that in real estate, a lot of times we work together with Mindy to help a seller or a downsizer organize their homes. Mm-hmm. But it's a relationship-based business.
Absolutely.
And sometimes somebody might be thinking about selling their home, but they're overwhelmed, or they don't know exactly where they're going to go. And so it is a long process.
Right.
I would think similar to what you're talking about, because if somebody owned a business for years, they really want to sell, but they're not quite sure what the process is, what they're going to do next.
100%.
There's a whole lot of things on the checklist that they need to kind of go over before they actually pull the trigger.
That's 100% true. And that's been the really big learning curve for me, is that how much selling a business is sort of not much different as far as psychologically as selling lipstick. So even though I sold lipsticks for years, what is consistent in both relationships is the trust and getting to know your customer and actually understand there's a process from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
Meaning very few people call me up and go, hey, I'm ready to sell my business, let's get it listed tomorrow, I'm all set. There's definitely a process, and that's the relationship piece that was consistent even in a retail store. Different because it's a short, you're
So
selling
were
goods.
you surprised how much your skills from running Ross's, working at Ross's, selling all those consumer products, how much your skills transferred into selling businesses? Was that a surprise for you, or was that something that you saw, oh, I did this, I could do that?
A little bit of both. What I knew was, after 30 years of standing on a street corner in Highland Park, I knew a lot of people. So I utilized that, and I knew that would be a short period of time where my name still had some recognition. Because as in life, in 10 years from now, I was a lady that used to own Ross's 10 years ago. I know there's the 15 minutes of fame part of that. So I knew that would have been a really good positive for me, because I already had a built-in reputation in town as someone they knew, someone they trusted. And so yes, in that respect, I did feel that way. However, what I didn't realize is that it's a very, very different psychological, people that want to sell their business, there's a big trust issue. They're worried they do know you. Are you going to say something to their friends? Confidentiality is everything in selling a business. Unlike selling a house where you tell everybody, because you want everyone to know you're selling your house, it's the opposite. So that was a little challenging. But I definitely think that, yes, your question was yes, absolutely. I did kind of know that I had to step up knowing that I knew people. If I went into a totally different area in Chicago or in the western suburbs, I don't think it would have been as easy for me to get that first rung of clients calling me.
Right.
Not all translated, but
yes, because you were in Highland Park, and then now you're based out of Deerfield. And
Correct.
For those people who are not in Illinois, those are two suburbs in the northern part of Chicago, or northern part of Illinois, that are right next to each other. So that's
Exactly.
really nice. So just like people will for real estate, they will call you in and say, can you give me an evaluation of my house? I'm thinking of selling, I don't know, maybe we'll sell in a couple of years. Do you do that for businesses as well?
Actually, it's so interesting, because the one thing that I realized, my husband and I sold our business, and we've been in business for 30 years, family business for 50 in our family, is that most people don't know the value of their business. That, to me, I knew the value of my house, because I would always be checking the value of my house.
Right.
You really kind of always know the value of your house. Yet, if you ask most business owners the value of their business, they either don't know, don't want to know, or they just never thought about it because they're too busy, especially small business owners, because they're grinding it out. And you're not really thinking of it as an asset that eventually you could sell, or something you just run to the end and close. 90% of all small businesses do not sell.
Really?
90%. That's like a fact all over. Like, you could Google that. It's really surprising, and that's for a bunch of reasons. Some people don't just want to close it. They're done. Most small business owners are just earning enough to live on for themselves and don't really come up with an exit strategy. And some people, like my husband and I, we came very close to saying, well, we'll just close it, not realizing we had a very saleable asset. It was kind of ignorance on our part. So once Mark, did a drop letter on our door and said, do you want to know a valuation of your business? Wow. That's how it started, with a drop letter.
We'll talk about that drop letter, because I think that's such a cute story.
Fascinating.
Yes.
That is really fascinating.
That was
how it came down. Okay.
So basically, my husband and I said he always wanted to retire at 60. We had just come out of the pandemic. It was obviously a rough road for people owning retail stores, us included. And we ended up looking at each other saying, okay, is it time to just close the doors? The business was sort of, our family, it was so ingrained psychologically in who we were that ego-wise, we were like, no, who else could do this? I mean, the business is us, people know me, blah, blah, blah. And we said, well, maybe we should reach out to business brokers. But unlike realtors, most people don't even know a business broker. I didn't know one. I didn't know where they came from or who you call or what company. And weirdly,
who you can trust.
And who you could trust.
If you just Google business brokers, you want a referral or something.
Exactly, especially with, it's like a house.
Right.
I would never hire a broker. A real estate broker. I didn't know. So anyways, almost like a vision, we go to our door right during this whole discussion, and we see an envelope on our door, inexpensive white envelope, and it said, confidential to business owner. We opened it up and said, have you ever thought of selling your business? And I'm kind of looking around the block like, does somebody know we're...
Am I being pranked?
Am I being pranked? Is this,
Right.
What's going on here?
Right.
This is candid camera. And my husband and I go, we might as well call. And he looks at the name. He goes, Mark Bailey. I know Mark Bailey. He lives in the local area. I think his wife shops here. Sure enough, we called them. Zoom came in the next few days, did a business valuation. We priced it to sell, and we sold in 3 months. And that's simplistic. Obviously, there's a process,
Right.
but we
That's
were already ready to sell. So he didn't have to go through that emotional, are we sure, we're not
Right.
sure. We were like, we'd be done yesterday. So I don't know how that story would have ended if we didn't have that drop letter. We might have used a company we didn't
So
know.
you didn't research different companies. You just talked to him.
We
and
just
worked
talked to
with
him. We did reach out to another company, again, Googling. We didn't know this person. My husband thought the rates were high, the commission rate was high. The minute we knew that this was someone that went to Highland Park High School with Earl, he had, again, to our point about familiarity, it was somebody with a built-in trust already because we knew him. So that took the next step after he sold it to we already had a relationship from selling the business, and now me working with him, we had a built-in trust already, which has continued on. It's been a great relationship.
That's so nice.
Yes.
You keep saying trust. I think all three of us in our businesses,
Yes.
trust is key.
Oh, yes.
A business or a home, it's one of the most, the largest expense you're ever going to have in your life, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So it's not like, you're just getting your windows washed. Like you need to
Exactly.
get somebody
Right.
that you trust.
And confidentiality.
Right.
Because that's a big issue for us as well.
Huge.
Yeah.
Oh, see, I would think in real estate. Oh, for you.
For
right.
me,
For
for
your
me.
business, right.
Yes,
Yes.
because
Exactly.
when we go in, well, it's not about me, so I'm not going to talk about it, but we see a lot of things.
Right.
And
I'm
so
sure.
it's very, very confidential.
And it's emotional, I think.
Very emotional.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
selling
for
the
all
business.
of us it's
Yes.
emotional,
They-
but particularly
Yeah.
in somebody's home, it's
Exactly.
very personal.
Right.
And a lot
Right.
of times with you're dealing with the emotions more.
Yeah, we do.
100%.
We do.
Yeah.
So what's been the biggest surprise?
The biggest surprise to me has been, that's a great question. Let me see. The biggest surprise is how people are emotionally attached to their businesses and the way they're attached to their homes, and how much goes into the thought process of selling your business. And maybe because my husband and I had a long-term plan from 20 years ago that we were going to retire at this age, we went through that emotional time of fear and
Yeah,
uncertainty
earlier.
and how much money do we have in the bank. We were psychologically preparing. Most people that I've met with, I've been very surprised, have not gone through that emotional journey. And they always say the worst time to sell your business are the 3 Ds: divorce, death, and there's a third one. Divorce, death. There's a third one.
Diamond?
There's
No?
3 times you're not supposed to sell your business, and most people
Yeah.
unfortunately do. When something terrible happens to them, when they go through a divorce, when there's a reason, disability. That was the third one.
Yeah.
And you want to sell your business before that, but often people don't want to think about it till something bad happens. And that was a surprise to me, that how many people are just so reluctant to sell their business because, which I liked, this is another surprise, I was really like to hear, it's their employees. So many people would be happy to close their business, but they're so worried about their beloved employees who've been with them 20 years, 30 years, especially people that are retiring. They really don't want to leave them astray. They don't want them to be without a job in their 50s or 60s. Some of them have been them forever. And that seems to be a lot of small business owners are really concerned about the employees. And having to tell them they're closing their business would ruin their lives in their mind.
That would be very
So even if they're financially ready to go, that has been a big surprise to me as well. The compassion that they have for the employees.
Right.
And
It's
making
very
sure-
nice. That's
Yeah.
a very nice surprise.
Yeah.
That's a lovely thing that, again, with the relationships and the trust,
Right.
right?
Right.
And feeling that ownership and pride for the people you work with.
Right, and then even though you're moving on, you're not giving them a choice whether they want to move
Right,
on.
right.
They're just going to work, and all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, you decide to close your business.
Right.
So what happened when you decided you wanted to come and work for this company? Did you have to take a course? Did you have to get a certification? Like, what is the process? Obviously, this is for a business development
Manager.
manager.
If I want to become, I work for Mark and I do his admin, I do his marketing, I do the podcast, I do all the things that to help him build his business. And then I work with him as the broker, and mostly I help him with both the small businesses, and we just hired another great broker, Debbie Kaplan, who is going to be doing the bigger deals as well. So I am not a broker. Transworld does have a brokerage program that you can go for a week and get the certification. I'm really happy doing the business development and working with Mark, and with Debbie. having them be the brokers on record and having me meet with buyers, do a lot of the emotional support team work, as well as doing a lot of the admin work, doing the marketing, going out there doing videos to promote the listings. So,
and that's, I think, you are so good at.
yeah, thank you.
That's what I was thinking.
It was
Probably your personality
an easy
so well.
transition. Like, it
Right.
wasn't scary for you.
No.
I mean, yes, it was probably a little scary to start something new, but it was also exciting. But that's in your wheelhouse. This is exactly what you did at Ross's too.
Pretty much, exactly.
Yeah.
What's been hard, what's been challenging is it is new things. I mean, I was so comfortable for so long doing the same thing. So I knew everything about the beauty industry. I had all the connections. And now, here at 60, or at the time I was 59, but at 59, going into a new business where I kind of did have that imposter syndrome a little, because I knew nothing about what it was like to sell a business. So you have to kind of, the fake it till you make it, but I also had to absolutely put my ego down, know that I'm not the big know-it-all. I have a boss now. I'm not the boss anymore. Those were some of the things that were, learning to get people to be impressed with you and trust you. I didn't have the 30 years of built-in relationships and knowledge of what I was doing. And it was challenging and scary, but ultimately I feel like I've really learned a lot. I mean, tremendous amount in the last year, more than probably the last 20, because I was on autopilot at my store. I knew everything already after so long, and I didn't have to learn anything. And with that comes ego, but with also kind of a laziness. And now I'm a little sharper. I'm really trying to learn new things.
And I think that's really important for our brains as we age.
Oh, yeah.
Learn something new,
Yep.
challenge yourself.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I do feel like that. And also being around, to your point, I was thinking about this, because a lot of my friends and family have kind of chuckled and said, I can't believe you're retired and now you're doing this. It's ridiculous, and go golf and learn how to do this. And there's been like a perplexing, like, why would somebody work if they've already sold their business and planned to retire? And I said, it's really actually this. To me, it's about being around other women, and I've known you guys for so many years. It's so great to be around other people, that like-minded people. And not to judge people that retire, but I've always been a certain kind of person, and continuing on and doing chamber events and marketing events and watching friends of mine that we've all gone through this, and I like the people. I like the women that are in this world with me, and that's been really great. Way more than when I owned a retail store, because I didn't really get to participate and be part of a group of women that think like I do. And now I do, and that's been great. Because I have lots of new relationships, and relationships that we knew each other on a different level.
Right.
Now we're seeing each other.
Sharing something new.
Sharing something new.
Right.
And I find that fascinating and interesting and fulfilling. And not to put down, playing pickleball, which I'm learning. It's just, I don't need to, that to me is not as interesting as this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we are living longer, we're
Yeah.
healthier. So, if you look back at maybe our parents' or grandparents' generation, you may have worked in a job for 40, 50 years,
Right.
and then you retire, and then that's it, because you didn't have that much more living to do, right?
True.
Good living.
But now we are living longer, and we want more challenges.
Right.
We're healthy,
Exactly.
and we want to do more.
So what would you say, I really like this question, what advice would you give to others who are concerned about the financial risks of making a career midlife or later in life? What would you say to them?
It's funny, I thought a lot about that question when I answered it. And I thought so much, everything has to do with the situation you're in. I mean, I have friends that have recently lost their husbands and are in more difficult financial situations, and they had to get a job. I mean, that was it. There was no thinking about a career. There was no philosophical, thinking about it. It was basically, I need to hustle. I need to grind. You don't want to be in that position, but their options are different. Fortunately for me, we had planned for this for so long, and we had budgeted for this and worked with financial planners. So we had a goal. We lived, below our means for a long time, so we could do this. So I was able to take a job that I could play, for lack of better words, the long game and not make much until I sell my first business or close on my first business. So I think a lot has to do with really crunching the numbers. And in the same way you want to do a valuation for your business, if you're, sell your business or close your business and you're doing a midlife change or retire from a corporate job, you've got to crunch the numbers and really your options are based on really what you could afford and how much. Listen, I love making money. That's also a thing. I really enjoy waking up in the morning, whether I'm making minimum wage at a job that I'm doing part-time as well. I work at a resale shop part-time. But that, to me, I enjoy that. I like the feeling of earning. And but my options were a little more open, so I could explore doing the business brokerage with Mark. So that's something you need to consider, like anything else. Like, where are you at financially, and what risks are you willing to take? Right. Are you willing to take a risk where you're not going to earn a lot for a year, and hopefully, or 6 months, or a couple of years, and have a big payout at the end?
It might be worth for somebody in that situation too to talk to a professional who really can help you with financial planning and long-term goals and that kind of thing, and then maybe that in and of itself will help people narrow down what avenue they need to go.
Exactly. So, but I do think there's two kinds of people. I think there are people that like to work, and there are people that like to not work, and have friends and family on both sides of that. Absolutely no judgment whatsoever. No. But I just tend to like to work, and it's interesting because I actually feel some weird judgment on that for people that don't work, that feel like you only work when you absolutely have to put food. Like, who would work if you don't have to? Like, and I don't mean I don't have to, like I'm this multimillionaire. I'm just saying, if you made the option to retire. Like, do the retiring things. And to me, this is my joy. And the people I know you, and I think all of us to an extent, Mark Cuban doesn't have to work, he does. Jeff Bezos doesn't have to work, he does. Right. I think people are built to work and get fulfillment from that, and there are people that don't. And I realized when we sold Ross's that I can't not work,
Right. So this transition, when you were at Ross's, it was retail, so you were open retail hours. Now you're in a different position, right? So it's like, how has this changed you? Have you explored different passions? Are you able, you can probably kind of set your own schedule.
Right.
Does it give you a little bit of extra free time? Does it allow you to network in different ways, maybe through your passions? Like, how has that changed for you?
It's fantastic. Let me tell you, it is fantastic not to have retail hours. I was a little bit of a workaholic. I worked probably 80 hours a week. And if I wasn't working, I was thinking about working. I think a lot had to do with being in a retail space. We owned the business during Amazon coming. My father-in-law, who owned the business before us, worked 9 to 5. We were just given challenges because of the changing landscape of retail, that if I wanted to stay in business, you had to grind it out and be creative. And it became a little bit of an obsession, to the point where I think it was not good. It kept us going, but I feel like I gave up a lot of my psychological well-being in service to that store. And to me, it's been, oh my gosh, I love it. I get to walk around TJ Maxx. It's not like I'm exploring new hobbies, because I'm not a big hobby person. I learned how, I'm trying to learn pickleball. But basically, the freedom to just be able to do this. It's the peace of mind of knowing I'm not, oh my gosh, I have to run back to the store. What if someone doesn't show up to work? I personally love the emotional freedom more than the physical freedom. The emotional freedom has been life-changing, and I think good for my health. To do that, and I realize how much I've missed too.
Yeah. I know that I worked in retail for a short amount of time.
Yes, you did.
I remember we would talk about that, and it is hard because you are bound to the hours that either the mall is open or your store is open, and you can't just. If you didn't want to work that day, you either had to find somebody to fill that shift, or it was hard.
It's very hard. And when you own the business, it's really hard. Because if somebody doesn't show up, you could be, cancel everything for your day. But I'm getting a little of my retail buzz by working. I do work at North Shore Exchange in Glen Cove a couple days a week, and that because I miss that one-on-one chit chat with people that I don't get as much with. So that's kind of fills the emotional need without the anxiety of business ownership.
And for North Shore Exchange, for people who don't know, it is a nonprofit organization. People donate. A lot of my clients will donate things that they don't want.
And consign.
And they consign, and they get a percentage back. And so you help with that business, too.
And I really enjoy that because it does, I think after 30 years of being used to that bantering, that retail, I did miss that. And I thought this was a great, that would be, for lack of better words, my hobby, is I enjoy doing that. Because it fills that little need that don't get from working at the business brokerage firm.
And has it helped you network at all, like to
Oh, yeah.
meet anybody else who's looking to sell? I mean, because that's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
you never know when you're going to meet somebody.
You don't. Now, that's a good point, Jasmine. I was meaning to mention that too. That's the difference between retail as well and what we do. Is you never know where it's coming from. In retail, you stand there, someone opens the door, they go, "Hi, I'm looking for a shampoo." You're like, "Here's the shampoo." You stand and wait for the customer, pretty much.
Right.
We don't know where it's coming from. Like I was just, talking to Jordan, and we just made a connection out in the green room. Or
Yeah.
You don't know, and that's good and sometimes challenging because you want to turn it off sometimes and not always be marketing. But you're right, you'd never know in this kind of business where it's going to come from. It could be social media, it could be going out for coffee with a friend whose friend shows up to your table. That's true.
Yeah.
You never know where it's going to come from.
Do you have advice for anybody who's around our age who's maybe thinking about switching careers and trying something completely different, which is scary at any point?
Right.
But do you think it's scarier now than in your 20s or 30s? Or any advice for somebody?
I think, it's another great question. I think that this is not something that most people impulsively do. I think most of us that want to make a transition have been thinking about it. I think it's like anything else in life. And I think play to your strengths at our age. I think that's the one thing I could say. There's a great book I highly recommend to everybody that I read that I found life-changing, and it's called by Arthur Brooks. It's called Strength to Strength.
Oh.
It is an unbelievable book.
Note to
And
self.
it's about our age group, literally people over 50, and the strengths that we get, the people that do well in retirement or in that second part of life and the ones that don't. And it is letting go of who you were and being who you are today. And it's called, we used to have fluid intelligence, which means our brains could be filled up with all sorts of knowledge and learning. No doubt about it, by our age, our memory isn't what it used to be, our recall isn't what it used to be, but what we have is crystallized intelligence. And crystallized intelligence is a wonderful thing for people that, I have a family member that wants to maybe retire and he wants to write a book because of his 35 years of being in business as a business owner. It's using that, what you are today, and not going 60 is the new 40, because it's not. 60 is not the new 40, but you have things at 60 that you don't have at 40, and whatever career you pick, be honest with yourself that use that. And that crystallized intelligence has served me well, and referring back to that book has really served me well.
My mom used to say, like when I was a kid, and she would tell me something, and I would be like, "How do you know?" And she would say, "Life experience."
Totally true.
And I hated when she said that. But now that I'm my age, I get it.
Yeah.
And it's true. There are certain things that you just can't learn
No.
other than experiencing it.
Exactly.
Good or
So
bad,
true.
but they
Yeah.
make an impact on your life, right?
It is, and I hate to say the word wisdom, but it is. There's a wisdom. It's okay. Been there, done that. So yes, to that extent, I think anyone that wants to start a new career needs to first do that deep dive into themselves and think about, who am I? What am I good at? I now know doing this what I'm not good at. I mean, we have a new woman that I was just sharing with you that's fantastic on the computers, came from a long line of corporate background, and I'm just not good at it. I know I'm not good at it, and I'm trying to learn it, but I said to her straight up, that's not a strength of mine, but do I need it to become a strength of mine at this stage of the game? And I'm like, no, let her be good at that and teach me what I need to know, and I'm going to be okay with that. And I think 20 years ago I would have beat myself up and said, oh, you're such an idiot, why aren't you good at this? She's so much smarter than you. I would have gone to that, I would have ruminated about what I've done.
Spiraling.
Yeah. And I'm now much more, okay, what am I going to do? She's better than that at me. Doesn't make me, I don't have the ambition to climb up a corporate ladder, so she could be better at that than me, and I have to worry that I'm not good at something else.
I
And
love
think
that, Arden.
changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I think that's so important. And I'm stuck on the fluid and the crystallized.
Yes, get the
because
book.
I like that. They're visual, right? It's very easy, and it is. I think we are in a crystallized stage
We are.
of life with so many things.
It is.
And I also think for somebody who's maybe thinking about changing careers, there are, for example, I know a woman who specializes in, she's a headhunter, and she specializes in women who are returning to the workforce maybe after being a stay-at-home mom, or maybe there's, like you were mentioning, the husband passes away and now it's like, boom, I need to grind, I need to get into whatever.
Right.
So there are specialists out there to help people in the transition.
100%.
If you don't know your own strengths or if you don't know where you want to go to help you. And I think we're also at the age where it's like, we know there are specialists for just about everything. Bring in
Sure.
the help you need.
Bring in the help you need.
Bring in the help you need.
Have your team.
Yeah, put your team together, right?
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And
build
there's
it.
I also think there's a certain, while it's depressing in a lot of ways, there's also clarity in our age. There's a numerical, statistic. I'm using my age, 60. How many more years in the workforce am I going to be? I'm a new grandma. How much do I want to put into it? Where do I want to go? Where am I climbing to? In my 20s and 30s, other coworkers were competitors for the next position. I was in a law firm, and that girl was smarter than me. Oh my God, I'm not going to get the promotion. All those anxieties are gone because you just want it. Your goals are very different. And how many more years do I want to work? So I know I'm not looking 40 years in the future at this point. You look, okay, this would be good for the next 10 years, and then reevaluate,
Right.
or then really retire. So I think while it's scary to be our age because you look at how much we've lived and how much we have left, there's also a very clarifying kind of, growth. That's the word I'm looking for. That comes with knowing that.
Right.
Yeah, and a perspective. That's the word I'm looking for.
That's a
See,
good
I can't
word.
remember words like I used to.
That word retrieval thing.
Word retrieval, perspective.
Yeah.
You have a perspective. Yeah.
Well, we loved it. We loved chatting with you.
Oh, I
We'd
love
love
you
to have
guys.
you back like a year from now and
Okay.
see where you're at then.
Of course.
And I think you gave our listeners some really great things to think about. I'm sure there are plenty of people who are in your shoes
Oh, sure.
and
I'm sure
want to
there
do
are.
similar things.
Exactly.
So we will put all of your contact information in our
Fantastic.
show notes if anybody wants to reach out to you.
Okay, I would love that.
And we thank everybody for tuning in, and please follow and subscribe us, and we'll see you next week on another episode of Help Nobody Told Me.
Thanks, Arden.
Oh, you're so welcome.